Payin. Nabo Payin. Nabo Payin. I am a Tibetan. I am a Tibetan. I am a Tibetan. Thank you.
Long live His Holiness the Dalai Lama! Long live His Holiness the Dalai Lama! So from Times Square, this is our message to Beijing, to the United States, and every leader who chooses to choose silence. Tibet has not surrendered. Tibet has not surrendered, will not surrender, and will never surrender.
Dignity and survival of our nation. And to my Tibetan brothers and sisters, we now carry our responsibility. Let us continue to stand together to protect our identity and remember the words of martyrs, and continue to struggle for the cause they gave their lives to, and to bring back His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama back to Potala Palace in a free and independent Tibet. Pegalo!
Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! You come to this country in search of opportunity and that freedom that was denied to you in the country that you were born in, and we are going to call it
Yang tu bardus. Kita ngatu lokal anu sih. Kimbaci bani diyo mah. Nama sejaman lah, kan? Ngatu miri ini sih. Kita ngatu kalau dia pun misiri mitala juga. Kita ngatu mikir lah, amari ngatu tunda lah. Bocana.
We'll be always walking alongside you to fight for free Tibet. Free Tibet. Free Tibet. Free Tibet. Free Tibet. Free Tibet.
Tencho User,
Let's
Lobsang Dawa, Tenzin Shira, Wangchen Dolma.
Today I'm going to be reading you all the people who sacrificed their life to
I am
Tibet.
proud to always stand with you, not just in remembrance and commemoration, but we know that we must make sure we prioritize here in Times Square, here in New York City, here in the United States of America, that we know, our neighbors know, that we must have a free Tibet in our lifetime. So let's
my
go.
late father, Taksa Rinpoche, Tibetan Jigme Norbu. He said, from the start, from the last breath, never forget our country, Tibet. It was never part of China. Be proud of who you are. I am a Tibetan. Proud yellow.
In the homeland. While Lobga is gone, his legacy of selfless activism is not, nor is our collective work for the Tibetan people. Let us take it up together, with unity, with purpose, and with a resolute determination to fight for what is right. Long live His Holiness the Dalai
The
Lama.
concentration camps. 24 members of my husband's family who's standing with me, all disappeared. My parents-in-laws, all of his siblings, their spouses, 14 of his nieces and nephews. As an Uyghur American, when I spoke out about this, and only 5 days later they disappeared, my own sister and my aunt, just to silence me. to attend events, but he wants us to take the lead. Tonight, as we gather in the heart of New York, surrounded by friends, allies, and the freedom fighter from around the world, we are not just mourning a loss. We are mourning a hero, carrying forward his vision, proving the flames of independence will never be extinguished. Let us stand united. Let us pledge to carry his flame forward as one Tibetan voice. Pe Gelo, Pe Rangzen Gelo. Thank you all. Let us begin our program. We will now honor the Tibetan national anthem, followed by the American national anthem. Please, everyone, rise. 아니 벽에 민도마서나 그 벽에 인지 디칸트니 쓰고 인지 쉐이 나 참물로 그 갈로 고투셔나 디서베 purpose. He lived for Tibet every single day, and in the end, he gave his life for Tibet. On July 2nd, my uncle walked to the United Nations dressed in traditional Tibetan clothing and carrying a Tibetan national flag. He planted that flag firmly and raised the words, "Free Tibet" and "China out of Tibet," even when his body was engulfed in flames. Through his final act, my uncle awakened something powerful. He reminded Tibetans everywhere that we share one homeland, one history, and one responsibility. And his message to the Chinese government was clear that we have not forgotten who we are or our land, our language, our faith, and our history. And over 70 years of occupation and repression have not broken the Tibetan script. For more than 7 decades, China has waged a relentless campaign to erase Tibet as a nation. For more than 1.5 million Tibetans have died under occupation. Thousands of monasteries have been destroyed. Over 1 million Tibetan children have been separated from their families and placed in colonial boarding school and designed to strip away their language, culture, and identity. Tibetans are imprisoned for peaceful expression. Religious freedom is tightly controlled. Nomads have been forcibly removed from their ancestral land, and Tibetan language is being systematically replaced, and an entire generation are being pressured to abandon who they are. Yet, despite decades of repression, Tibetans have refused to surrender. And to the people of the world, I want to say this clearly: do not look away. Do not look away and silence yourself about Tibet. For too long, Tibetans have suffered while the world remained silent. 171 Tibetans have self-immolated, crying out for freedom and begging the world to witness what is happening inside Tibet. Their sacrifices were not acts to be forgotten. These are the highest level of non-violent political protest that appeal for justice, dignity, and survival of our nation. And to my Tibetan brothers and sisters, we now carry our responsibility. Let us continue to stand together to protect our identity and remember the words of martyrs, and continue to struggle for the cause they gave their lives to, and to bring back His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama back to Potala Palace in a free and independent Tibet. Pegalo! Pegalo!
땅이 집어가서 그게 되었습니다.
신도 당시 신도 제무처럼 계좌가 그냥 얘네 동네 남는 사실 고사 쉬고에 베리판다 양도 초보 치주가 베랑전 자쇼 나에게 베리 분도 정말로 니다바는 투지 치시와다 자지 파워 로가 랑제 데니기 치에다 동세 냠치에도 야나로 모고 시비 감디 배람다 대전다 랭긴다메 배워스 니서 통주 쇼와나 정말 니다바는 투지 치시와다 자지 파워 로가 랑제 그 타미 카시에다 나로 자레 고사나 시비 랭기 배토와다 만조 총메 그 지지레스 단도 만조 노메니네 미세 그래고 쉬야라 자지 파워 로가 랑제 그 라가몬테 그 타미 그 샤체 잡아데 대 몸이 그 토니 아니 사도 노마도 콩그 깨자 공시야바데 정보지 원이 제가 대다 말아봐 문터는 저는 가서 공라 차도저디야도 기와소식은 대화도 도사 덤부지는 로로긴 데메타 마자루세 니는 배부셔야이스 대전도 파워 콩이 제대로 끝나도 도리 신지데 아덴다비 랭기 뺑이는 초바가는 고치다 시기 온라 니타바네 투지체셔야이 당 아주 쫄라 보기 랭기 가르레세나 자지 파워 로가노제가 카지샤바나 먼터니 지기바다 콩도 파모 자도 duncho 아니 나도 년대 주고 와도 콘조고 리토도 와도 나도 치제서 만로바 나도 총미 동자 지리제 오나 베롱 로제도 베자파 쳔고 하요 这都邻居别的哈就感谢的，别人在家喽，别人在家喽，别人在家喽，把我落开家喽，把我落开家喽，中华的对些。
I would like now to invite Tashi Pamo, who share a deeply meaningful bond with Pawo Lobga Rangzen. I humbly request her to come forward and read his final testimony for us.
Pawo Lobga Rangzen's final testimony and appeal before his ultimate sacrifice. This is translated in English. Quote, what I want to say is that Communist China's policies and activities in Tibet are targeted at completely destroying the Tibetan people. I have nothing to say towards the Tibetan people inside Tibet. They have been working sincerely to preserve our spoken language, religion, and culture, and revive all that has declined. Their efforts are very noteworthy. Therefore, I want to thank them. I don't have anything else to say to them. But I want to share my opinion to those of us in exile. If we don't do anything for the struggle of our people, we'll get nothing. I want to say that those of us in exile, we need to work harder. We are very grateful to His Holiness the Dalai Lama for giving us democracy, which he handed to us without us having to make any effort. Even though we said that we do not want it, His Holiness the Dalai Lama granted us standard-worthy democracy. His Holiness's gift of democracy is not for us to have internal disunity, but to continue the struggle of the Tibetan people and Tibet as a nation in the hope that there will be advancement. In particular, His Holiness has said in the past that those of us living in exile, those of us living in the U.S., it is shameful to become complacent in exile simply after owning a house and a car. You are all the spokespersons of Tibetan people inside Tibet, and therefore you should work and continue the struggle for the Tibetan people. His Holiness won't be able to say more than that, as he's a Buddha who works for unity and harmony of all people, irrespective of color, religion, and world peace. But we're not Buddha, we're living beings. Today, what I have to say is that the Chinese communists have chopped us Tibetans, all irrespective of whether we belong to Dode, Dome, or Utang. We're all Tibetans. Therefore, we should work for the Tibetan nation. We should work for the people of Tibet. Today, when we say that we do not have human rights, that we do not have freedom of speech, that we do not have the freedom to display a portrait of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, if we examine why we do not have these freedoms, it is because we lost our independence of Tibet. That is why from today onwards, whether it is the Tibetan government, the Tibetan parliament, or the people, it is important that we should all be united and work for the struggle of Tibetan nation and Tibetan people. Therefore, from today onwards, without arguing about a province or religious denominations, we should think of ourselves as Tibetans. I am Tibetan. I am a Tibetan. Some of us say that we do not have independence. It's not that we do not have independence. We have independence, but the independence is lost. We have to get it back. Therefore, we Tibetans in exile must unite and continue the struggle for the independence of Tibet. I want to appeal with folded hands our exile community to work towards this. Secondly, today, if I undertake a major action on account of that example, in the next few days, His Holiness the Dalai Lama's 91st birthday is coming up. Its celebration, as well as Tibetan cultural performances, are to safeguard our culture. These have health benefits and also greatly benefit our younger generation. So my undertaking and action should not cause any disturbances to the celebration of His Holiness the Dalai Lama's birthday. Please celebrate His Holiness the Dalai Lama's birthday in the grandest way possible. Likewise, those who are performing songs and dances should continue to do so. They should not stop them. They should not mourn. What they need to do, in addition to considering that one is a Tibetan, one should see what can be done for the Tibetan people and nation. It is important to think in this way. Therefore, I appeal all of you to work even harder. Today, if I engage in an alarming activism, it's not that I do not have food, clothes, or out of depression. passion. I do it for the Tibetan nation. Since I'm doing it for the cause of Tibet nation, whatever is necessary to be done for the cause of the Tibet nation must all be continued. I don't want you to mourn for me. Instead, there should be a continuation of my hope and appeal. Please consider my appeal. Whatever we say we do not have, what's the reason for that? The source of all this is because we don't have independence. Because we lost our independence. If we regain independence, we will have everything. Therefore, what we need is independence. And for that, all of us should continue the struggle. Victory to independence of Tibet. Victory to Tibet. Pegalo! 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 Pegalo!
In showing them our deepest respect, I call them to pay their kada to Pawo Lobga Rangzen's portrait. I would like to request Jigme Ugen, President of TNC, to offer a scarf for them for their contribution. For that, for more information. We are honored to welcome distinguished leaders from our city who have just joined tonight to pay their respect. Please join me in welcoming TLC Commissioner Valdivia, Assistant Commissioner Chen, Junior Lieutenant Abu Rade, as they step forward to lead our candle and honor the memory and portrait for Pawo Lobga Rangzen. Please welcome them.
country that you were born in, and we are going to call it a country no matter what China tries to do or say. That is his sacrifice, that was his ask, and that is how we are going to treat you. I represent Elmhurst, where he called it home, where he worked, where he fought, and we are going to miss him in our neighborhood. And the only thing I ask of you today is to continue to do this. Show up for the people of Tibet. Show up for him. Show up for fighting for a free Tibet. Thank you for the honor of being a part of this beautiful demonstration of love toward his sacrifice and to the country that called you Tibetan. You will always be Tibetan. Thank you. May he rest in the peace that was denied to him in the country where he was born. Thank you. Thank you. Free Tibet.
Thank you so much, Assembly Member Catalina Cruz. She represents where I was staying before for another 12 years I stayed at Alma, so thank you. We are deeply privileged to have with us Jayanobula scholar, founder of TNC, and a tireless voice for Tibetan independence. I invite him to the platform. Jayanobula.
You must forgive me because I really don't know what to say. It's not often I'm sort of, struck dumb or anything, but it's been a really, really difficult time for me. Because Lobga, he had many friends in the Tibetan community, but he and I, politically, for the sake of Tibetan independence, for activism, we were best buddies. Nearly every day he would come and he'd have some idea, sometimes a mad idea, sometimes a good one. So I mean, it's really hard for me to say very much. You know, the day that he passed away, I get this call from Gere and the police want to see me. They say, who's in charge? And I'm the founder of the Tibetan National Congress, he's the president. So naturally, these two detectives, when we go to the morgue at Bellevue, and they want to know what happened. And I said, officers, I want you to understand that this was not a deranged person. This was not someone who was intoxicated. This was someone who was making a political statement. A statement for Tibetan independence. And I said the same way we call our organization the Tibetan National Congress is taken from the American National Congress that declared America's independence and the independence of so many other countries in the world that happened after that. So I don't want to talk too much about his life and things, but I just wanted to say, essentially I'm a writer. So you can check out I've written a number of articles on it. It's on Shadow Tibet, the blog post that I have. And you can go there, but I just want to read. I don't have the words for it, but there's a great Tibetan poet, a young woman living in Australia at the moment, but she was from Amdo, from the Tanakh grasslands of Amdo. Her name was Sunshuki. And when all these self-immolations took place inside Tibet, decades ago, and over 168 people had died, she wrote this poem called I Will Burn Myself Again and Again. This is Sunshuki. It goes like this. Are my grasslands still green? Are my blue lakes still crystal clear? Do my hills and streams still sing their melodious songs? Great gods of Tibet, do you still see them in your vision? Can all the bloody crimes of the world, pain of the wounded heart cannot be endured anymore? Yesterday, the ancestral land of my dream, destroyed by an army of bandits. Today, my precious mother made shamefully naked before my eyes. Tomorrow, my children's brains and bones savagely scattered about. I cannot submit to this anymore. From now on, aim the bullets of the many thousand guns only at me. Inflict all the most painful beatings and tortures only on me. Furthermore, direct all your persecution and tyranny only on me. I offer you the full measure of my life forever, and I assume full responsibility for this commitment. From today, please treasure the custom and heritage of my lineage. Take care of the purity of my land and environment. Respect the life force of my mother tongue. Give freedom to all my humble brothers and sisters. This is the last testament written with my blood. Because of necessity, it is my goal to burn myself forever. So let me accomplish this. All my brothers and sisters, young and old, living in misery and sorrow, all people throughout the world who have freedom and peace, and to you tyrants of violence, oppression and torture. What I want is lasting peace and freedom. What I am searching for is an existence of equality and caring. Until I accomplish this, I will burn myself again and again. Sungshuki, 2005. Thank you very much. Again, the Sungshuki is amdo 내가 개pe mercy 개버죠. 그 Australian sure. France somde 아주 표현하는 무슨 문구식 중도 되게 좋은데. 이 자상 노트에 제 넘버 중에 하다 Facebook 캠페인에 참여하는 거 캠페인 자상이요. 디민 내가 디민 가서 나 양내 양도 바르도스. 그래서 나도 로가라는 신 김치 반에 지요 말. 넘버 10만 나와. 나도 미리 유능시. 세상 어서 칼에 대고 미시를 미탈라도 그래. 저는 알아서 미규라예요 말이. 나도 돌아가요. 도잖아. 여기로.
Our next speaker is Alex Chow, one of the leaders of Hong Kong democracy movement and a leading voice for freedom and human rights. As a student leader of the 2014 Umbrella Movement, he inspired millions. Today, he continued to advocate for the people of Hong Kong on the international stage, reminding the world the struggle for freedom knows no borders. Alex.
Our friends from Tibet. I will have to acknowledge that it is very difficult to come to this stage and to come up with any words to share with you. Because if it is a protest, we could rally to the Chinese embassy, we could change, we could see like a CCP down. But the context of this rally is just too heavy. With a dear Tibetan community member engaging in self-immolation, even I myself, I think it takes time to process. And I can't even imagine like what is the most appropriate word to show support, to walk alongside with our Tibetan friends. I think that's my biggest concern. I think like my presence today is not to like a rally for any action, because I feel like I'm in no position to do that, because like each of you being here today, being present at the Times Square, waving your flag, chanting Pawo Lobga Rangzen's name is already exemplifying the spirit of our dear friend who want all of us to continue the fight until the day CCP is down, until the day Tibet is free. I remember the day when our dear friend engaged in self-immolation. I was actually technically about to schedule an interview to talk to one of the Tibetan community members, to ask them, to learn from them how the Tibetan community in exile can be that resilient, and in what way the Hong Kongers could learn from you, to learn how to build an institution, to recover from exile, to grieve, to process the sense of loss, to process our political violence, the political trauma, so we recover from being pushed out from our hometown, from being disconnected, being cut off from our family members, to being able to adapt to a new host country, unfamiliar with the culture, the language, the system, the institution, and still able to rebuild a community from afar. Now that we could enjoy our freedom in the US, but also to fight for our friends, our colleagues back in jail, behind bar, so that one day we can reunite. And I can imagine when the moment we were about to engage in a call, I was notified the incident happened. And it is even harder for me to imagine when our Tibetan friends, as each of you have been telling others, to not let the sacrifice becomes just another 3-second news cycle, but to activate the force, to activate the energy, to spread the words, to make more people hear of the story, so the sacrifice would not be a wasted cause, so the spirit could sustain and it pass to more and more people. So I think as a Hong Konger, what I can do here today is really to remind each other and to pay our tribute, to let our Tibetan friends know, until the day Tibet is free, Hong Kongers would be always walking alongside you to fight for a free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Let's not give up until Tibet is free.
Thank you, Alex. Now we have Tibetan children from DC to honor our martyr.
Some the Inge Lavendo, Pege Lavendo, wash the sum, this is Ashmurva. Any Kamanzo, Chili Kamabu, Chili Kamabu, some people. Nasuza Yegasam Tangan, Jackson, Tamachicho. I believe you. We can do what? Yeah, young is that Tibetan, that indicate your being. All right. A moment before, I realized personally, with the group I came from Washington, D.C., in a chartered bus. We all know how long it takes for us. You want to know how long it took us? About 5 hours. This is how Tibet problem is difficult. I have never experienced it in my life. This says a lot about the struggle that we are facing in this terrible earth. we have to be extra strong, extra strong. Now, I only a few words before I introduce the young kids who will decide the beautiful names of the 160 or 70 who have given their life for Tibet. Starting with New Delhi, the first Self-Immolation, you all know, following a demonstration organized by Tibetan Youth Congress, Pawo Lobga Rangzen became the first one who gave his life. Then in a decade's time, things blew up in Tibet, starting with Tabela and onwards, how many people have given their lives. And also followed in India and Nepal, at least about a dozen. Luckily, some of them still alive. Some are even nowhere in Tibet, but majority have gone beyond our earth. By this time, it's almost 20 plus years, and many of them, I'm sure, they are born again in Tibet, nowhere but in Tibet. And I'm sure they will continue this struggle for us. And today, as we remember Pawo Lobga Rangzen, don't get me surprised, I happen to be a close friend. I cried for him yesterday, knowing that I would be traveling here. I couldn't sleep for hours, and just as now, tears falling. Finally, this morning I wake up, my pillow is totally wet. So much for my feeling. I know this is in everybody's heart in Tibetan and outside Tibet. And we are facing a new generation of young Tibetans who need to follow us. Our main purpose for being here is also to remember those who have already given their lives, about 170. We have long list, and we have asked our upcoming young from our Sunday school kids, because of time, we won't be going into details. They will simply say their names and read about 20-30 names of those who passed away without giving any details because of time. But I must tell you, all those who died for Tibet, as young as 17, and the oldest was 62. Can you imagine that? So, the Lobga Rangzen's self-immolation has spied up internationally. We all know that he's no longer with us, but we also know those about 169, 70, they are gone, they are already back. Some are there in their 20s. Of course, you don't know that. But Lobga Rangzen is still there. You know, our tradition for 49 days, he's not gone beyond despair. He's still in what was the transition Tibet Pargo. He's living in a dream, and unlike those who all die, how can he sleep during these 47 days? He must be traveling, coming back here, hearing us, and when we don't respond, it's a knockout for him. Oh my God, I must be dead. Then he goes in dream, and I'm sure because of so much attention internationally and protests, I'm sure he has been flying all over the world because now he doesn't need a visa. And today he's waiting. He'll be with us until the 49th day when we will have the final goodbye for him. So with this, I'll close my remarks. Thanks for your listening. And all these young people to read the names of all those who deceased for Tibet.
I'm a proud 14-year-old student from my Tibetan Lobga located in Vienna. Tutengoto, Tape, Lobsang Hunso, Sewang Nobu, Lobsang Kuncho, Lobsang Kasang, Kasang Wongcho, Kayang, Chopel, Nobu Dando, Tenzin Wangmo, Dawat Sering, Bauden Chutso, Wongta Tenzin Punso, Tenyi, Sutun, Sonam Wangyao, Lobsang Jamyang, Ripa, Renzin Dorji, Sonam Rabyang, Tenzin Chudun, Lobsang Gyatso, Damjo Sangpo, Nangjo, Seninki, Renchinki, Dorji, Gere, Jamyang Bauden, Lobsang Sultan, Sonam Target, Lobsang Sherap, Chimi Bauden, Tempa Target.
Hi, my name is Tenzin Kunzong. Atse, Tulku, Atup, Sonam, Chilpakyap, Doji Tseden, Targe, Rikyu, Tamdintar, Tenzin Kedu, Nawang Norfel, Digi Chunzum, Sewang Doji, Lobsang Lozun, Lobsang Tsuzum, Gyatso, Sheba, Tashi, Lungto, Lobsang Kesang, Lobsang Damche, Basang Hamo, Hyungdung, Kujuk, Sangye Gyatso, Damdin Dorji, Lamo Gyap, Tonduk, Dorji Rinchen, Tenzin, Tsepo, Lamo Tseden, Tubang Gyap.
Dashling, Yimi Rinzimoi, Dorji Hunjo, Tegyao, Damdingto, Dorji Kyap, Dorje, Samjo, Kalsang Jimba, Gombo Tsiling, Ninkar Dashi, Ninchakun, Linzi Joma, Karbun Gyal, Chabmoki, Sangdak Tsiling, Wangchen Norbo, Tsering Pendo, Hubun Tsering, Tamarin Gyal, Tamarin Dorje, Sangye Joma, Kuncho Tsering, Gombo Tsering, Wangyal, Sangyal Tashi, Kalsang Kyap, Wangdin Kal, Tsering Namgyal, Kuncho Kyap, Songdu Kyap, Lobsang Gendun, Bema Dorje, Kuncho Pelge, Penchinki, Tsering Tashi, Tsering Penso.
Tasdale, Nyeming Bemayin, Kunchok Kyap, Lobsang Namgyal, Dupakar, Namlat Tsering, Rinchen, Sonam Targe, Hagmo Tunduk, Sangdak, Sedung Kyap, Kunchok Wangmo, Lobsang Tokme, Kyalki, Pawo Kyap, Kunchok Chomo, Kunchok Tenzin, Shukso, Kunchok Reser, Lobsang Dawa, Tenzin Sherap, Wangchen Dolma.
Dashile, Naming Wong Tripi. Today I'm going to be reading you all the people who sacrificed their lives to Tibetans. Kunchok Sonam, Sichung, Chiringyal, Kunchok Seden, Sultim, Gyatso, Hagmo Samdu, Lobsang Dorji, Jigme Tenzin, Lobsang Bauden, Dolma, Chinli Namgyal, Kunchok Lamotashi. Thank you.
PLC Commissioner Waldivia for your presence. We appreciate this.
The Tibetan National Congress and New Yorkers who are coming here to make sure that we're here to not ever forget the sacrifice of Martyr Lobga Rangzen, our neighbor here in New York. I am so proud as an assembly member in Western Queens to represent Woodside, Jackson Heights, Elmhurst, one of the largest Tibetan communities here in the state of New York. And in our community, we know that we must fight for a free Tibet. Here in Queens and across our 5 boroughs, we know that human rights must be universal. We know that no matter where we live in this earth, that human rights are rights for everyone, and we cannot forget that. So we must not forget that just because of our martyr here and all the others who self-immolate, the 171, that everyone who has fought for not forgetting and fighting for Tibetan culture, Tibetan identity, Tibetan language will not just be not ever forgotten, but we lift up the torch and the fight, and we continue it here in New York, here in the city, the state of New York, and all over the world. So I am proud to always stand with you, not just in remembrance and commemoration, but we know that we must make sure we prioritize here in Times Square, here in New York City, here in the United States of America, that we know, our neighbors know, that we must have a free Tibet in our lifetime. So let's come together. I'm so proud to join you. Thank you, Tibetan National Congress, and long live our martyr, Lobga Rangzen. Thank you so much. Happy New Year.
Thank you so much, Assembly Member Stephen Roga. Our next speaker carries forward a deep family legacy for Tibetan freedom, son of Tase Rinpoche and nephew of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and a dear friend of Pawo Lobga Rangzen, and have walked many times for Tibet, Mr. Kunganupala.
All right. Dele. My name is Gunga Norbu, and I'm the son of the late Dakse Rinpoche, the elder brother of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. As you may have heard, my father started the march for the Rangzen movement once he retired from his day job as a professor at Indiana University. Yet they never allowed their differing political approach to divide them. They respected and trusted each other. They stood together unwavering in their commitment to Tibet. They shared a common vision to work for the happiness and well-being of the Tibetan people. The torch of this moment was passed on and carried forward by my late younger brother, Jigme Norbu. After his passing during the Rangzen Rangzen March in 2011 in Florida, I joined my nephews, Jigme's son, to carry on the legacy of the Rangzen March that same year. From the point on, I engaged in several other walks for the Rangzen movement. In 2013, I walked with Lobga Rangzen from Washington, D.C. to New York City, and we walked together on few other marches for Rangzen. I came to know my friend Lobga well during these walks, and we became friends. I was invited to his apartment in New York City, and we spent nights together talking. Through these personal connections, as usual, we engaged in conversation about Tibet and the Rangzen movement. Although I deeply admire his sacrifices for the Rangzen movement in Tibet, this time it still breaks my heart badly. Without much emotional outburst, I'm here today to remember my dear friend Lobga Rangzen and his sacrifices. I'm also here today to honor this act of bravery, which is certainly brings back memories of my late father's and my brother's determination towards the Rangzen movement. Lobga Rangzen was my friend and my co-activist, and I will cherish the memories we created together. I will remember for years to come. In my mind, he was my hero, and he will remain a hero for Tibet and the whole movement. We'll remember his call to be reunited in the struggle for the Tibetan cause. We remember the over 170 Tibetans who have resorted to self-immolation for Tibet. We'll be advocates for our brothers and sisters in Tibet, as envisioned by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and as reminded by my friend Lobga Rangzen with these words. I would like to draw your attention to the word of my late father, Taksa Rinpoche, Tupten Jigme Norbu. He said, from the start, from the last breath, never forget our country, Tibet. It was never part of China. Be proud of who you are. I am a Tibetan. Victory for Tibet! Victory for Rangzen! Victory for unity for Tibet! And long live His Holiness the Dalai Lama!
Jalo. Now the jumps over. I need the pocket jamna, easy to jamna, pocket jamna lizera. I need Lama Tafir Buchi, Shilo Chico Gupta Kwafo, Tafir Buchi, Indiana, and Birmingham, Indiana, at the Congo Tamamasha. I need Chico Gupta Pongalo, Washington DC, New York, Tafir Buchi, Chico Bonasha. Ani di jila Jigme Norbugo Kondoji, Ani Takani Apollo Dali Tondo Yonji, Ganga Norbugo, and Martha Shi Kondo Mare, or the Kapila Niko, or Chisum Golo, Lobga Rangzen Norbo, Ganga Norbo, Tamasu, Nyambo, Yangi, and Moda taking to Washington DC, New York, Shi Kondo Mare. 所的这个马下根本就是他来的。我说他们这个就干什么这个都在这个，今年明年。에딩라고 랑탄 좀나래 하마군나래 참아인 그 카자 포르라고 독사 지게라고 카트 자자죠 그 인형거리 있더니 뭐뭐 참아라 먹으시게요 참아된 그 모두 참아인 그 랑탄 지야데 로가 랑탄 거 가리 라비가 따가 노지 그 지지치가 맞더라 공거 소 제마 지지엔라 그 따가 노지 참아이 시저죠 그 냥거리 있더니 수소가 리가 먹으시게요 소소이 남만 때 람탄 상마가 또 딱새는 뭐지 공주 따때 그 소소가 맞다 소소 오르는 거다 람탄 맞도 되었다 소소 담자 담보이 오자로 오람탄 자로 오람탄 자로 여러분 뭐지 그때 털로 담바쇼
Next I invite Ryan Forrest, Executive Director of ICT and a former U.S. State Department Senior Advisor on Tibetan issue.
My name is Ryan Furesi. I'm the Executive Director of the International Campaign for Tibet. It's an honor to be here with all of you. Thank you. To the family members of Lobga, members and supporters of the Tibetan community, and all who have gathered here tonight, we come together in grief. On July 2nd, in front of the United Nations, Lobga Rangzen self-immolated and tragically passed shortly thereafter. He was a native of Kardza, a devoted monk, and above all, he was a son of Tibet. He came to the United States in 2006 and spent nearly 20 years engaged in selfless activism on behalf of his people, refusing to let the world look away from his homeland. Tonight we mourn him and we hold his family and all who love him in our hearts. While we grieve, we also cherish the call in Lobga's final message, where he said he did not want our mourning. He wanted us to redouble our effort, strengthen our unity, and raise our voices to the international community to proclaim that Tibet can no longer be ignored. His appeal has never been more urgent. One day before he died, the Chinese Communist Party's so-called ethnic unity and progress law came into effect, giving legal cover to what Beijing has pursued for decades, the systematic dismantling of Tibetan language, religion, and identity. Lobga understood what that means. It means every Tibetan who still speaks their language, teaches a child a prayer, holds a picture of His Holiness, engages in an act of resistance. He thanked Tibetans inside Tibet for exactly that, for their resilience and bravery despite the extraordinary risks. And he reminded Tibetans in exile and their supporters that we are their voice in places they cannot reach, like this one. That is why our activism cannot stop at our own movement. The Tibetan struggle is bound to the Uyghurs, the Hong Kongers, the Southern Mongolians, the Taiwanese, and to every person of conscience that refuses to accept that a government may erase a people. Broad coalitions are how movements persevere and how they win. We at the International Campaign for Tibet are more resolute than ever.
in our determination to build international support for Tibet and partner with all of you and Tibet supporters everywhere to ensure that Tibetan voices are heard at the highest levels around the world. But unity and effectiveness is not only a matter of numbers or coalitions, it's a matter of principles. His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, has shown us for decades what ours must be: nonviolence, compassion, and a commitment to helping others towards the betterment of our common humanity. These are not fleeting values. They are our North Star. They are also the source of our moral authority in every capital and every global institution, including the United Nations. So we ask the UN and its member states in explicit terms, condemn the Ethnic Unity and Progress Law and demand its repeal. Urge China to engage with His Holiness the Dalai Lama or his representatives in genuine dialogue. Hold Beijing accountable for its appalling repression and what it is doing to a people who simply want to practice their faith, speak their language, pass on the rich culture and traditions of Tibet to their children, and live their lives in freedom and dignity in their homeland. While Lobga is gone, his legacy of selfless activism is not, nor is our collective work for the Tibetan people. Let us take it up together, with unity, with purpose, and with a resolute determination to fight for what is right. Long live His Holiness the Dalai Lama. I did two more. Long live His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Long live His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Our next speaker is Rushan Abbas, one of the world's foremost advocates for Uyghur people and the founder of Executive Director of the Campaign for Uyghurs. After the Chinese government disappeared her sister and her auntie in a retaliation for her advocacy, Rushan transformed her personal strategy into a global campaign for justice, exposing the atrocities being committed against the Uyghur people. She has become one of the strongest and most courageous voices confronting the Chinese Communist Party's campaign of repression. Please welcome her.
Everyone. Thank you for the organizers and thank you for everyone showing up here today. I am deeply honored to stand beside the Tibetan community as we remember Pawo Lobga Rangzen and the sacrifice he made to stand against the Chinese Communist Party's brutalities. He understood something many of the governments refuse to acknowledge. When the world remains silent in the face of oppression, it's courageous individuals who bear the burden of defending the freedom. Lobga Rangzen's final act was a powerful plea to humanity to recognize and confront the Chinese Communist Party's systematic destruction of Tibetan people issue. It is deeply personal. Almost 8 years ago, when the Chinese Communist Party disappeared more than 1 million innocent people into the concentration camps, 24 members of my husband's family who are standing with me all disappeared. My parents-in-laws, all of his siblings, their spouses, 14 of his nieces and nephews. As an Uyghur American, when I spoke out about this, and only 5 days later they disappeared, my own sister and my aunt, just to silence me. Beijing wants my silence, and I will not give that to them, because the silence is the oxygen of the tyranny. I know that countless Tibetan families carry the same pain. The Chinese government hopes that time will erase those stories. It will not. Why? That's why this gathering like this matters. When Uyghurs and Tibetans come together, we send a strong message that Beijing cannot control us. Our unity is stronger than its propaganda. I have had the privilege of standing beside Tibetan leaders, advocates, and the survivors, and I am inspired by your resilience. Despite decades of occupation and repression, you have never abandoned your identity, your faith, and your hope. That resilience gives strength to all of us, to Uyghur people, just as I hope our struggle reminds Tibetan people that they are not alone. The international community must understand that what's happening in Tibet and East Turkestan is not history. It's happening right now. Surveillance has become a weapon. Forced assimilation and forced labor have become the state policy. The goal is not simply politically controlling the Tibet or East Turkestan. It is the world domination. They first started these education centers taking Tibetan children and erasing their identity and ethnicity in Tibet. Then they expanded, escalated, and perfected to genocide in my homeland, East Turkestan. Then they demolished the democracy in Hong Kong, now threatening Taiwan. The next is all of us, all the world. The world cannot ignore the people who are struggling to warn, and they try to wake up the conscience of the world. Lobga Rangzen's sacrifice must not be forgotten. His message was not only for Tibetans, it was for every person who believes that human dignity is worth defending. Tonight, let this event be more than just the remembrance of Pawo Lobga Rangzen, his extraordinary courage and the sacrifice. Let it be our pledge to carry forward the cause for which he gave everything, so Tibet's struggle for freedom is never forgotten. To the Tibetan people, the Uyghurs stand with you. Your struggle is our struggle. Together with Chinese dissidents, Chinese faith, Christians, Southern Mongolians, Falun Gong practitioners, Hong Kongers, and the people of Tibet, we are with you. We will not stop exposing the CCP's crimes. We will not stop until justice prevails. The CCP is only a threat, not only a threat to Tibetans and Uyghurs, it's a threat to the world democracy and the freedom. The world must wake up before it's too late. May Pawo Lobga Rangzen's sacrifice awaken conscience, strengthen our resolve, and inspire action. Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free East Turkestan! Free
person. Kind, dedicated, totally determined. When I saw footage of his self-immolation posted online, I could not believe my eyes. Like so many of you, I felt so many emotions all at once. Shock, horror, sadness, frustration, anger. For those who knew him best, who worked alongside him day after day, month after month in New York and beyond, I know these last weeks have been an overwhelming roller coaster of emotions. Our compatriots in the struggle are the ones who understand us best. Both our motivation, our hope, our sadness, our deepest frustrations. Every time they take action and they show up, they give us the encouragement to keep showing up too. Pawo Lobga Rangzen was always taking action, always showing up. His absence will be felt by you most acutely. And to his friends, his family, and to the community here in New York City who knew him so well, on behalf of Tibet Action, me, my family, my husband, and my 3 boys are here, I offer my deepest condolences. It's hard for people, most people, to understand even a single act of self-immolation. It's nearly impossible to understand. More than 170 Tibetans have taken this most painful action. This is partly because the act itself is incomprehensible, but it's also because Tibetans most often move through this world in a way that belies the depth of the grief and pain we carry over China's genocidal rule in our homeland. For decades now, the vast majority of our people have gone to work, raised their kids, and lived their daily lives in exile with remarkable humor, positivity, love, friendship to their fellow citizens. But just beneath the surface, there lives a constant, terrible, heartbreaking anguish over China's decades-long assault on the Tibetan people, on our nation, on our language, on everything we hold dear and sacred, our religion, our culture, our precious teachers, our scriptures, our temples, our mountains, the grasslands. I know this anguish was especially profound for my Pala, for my father's generation, who knew life in a free Tibet before the Chinese occupation, who knew the truth of Tibet's independence because they lived it. They experienced it. Rangzen, self-sovereignty, firsthand, they lived it. And that was an existence where, for better or worse, Tibetans were in charge of their own lives, where parents decided what was best for their children and could teach them to do what parents everywhere do, to speak like them, to live like them, to worship like them. In Tibet today, Tibetan parents have even been stripped of this right. 3 out of every 4 school-aged children are in China's colonial boarding schools, residential boarding schools. This means an entire generation is being forcibly assimilated. Approximately 1 million Tibetan children. But what it doesn't mean is that Tibetan resistance will end. It doesn't mean that freedom or even Rangzen is impossible. For even if China were to succeed in cutting the mother tongue from Tibetan children and turning them against their own identity, that's a great reason to cheer. For those who can't see, people are cheering because one of Tibet's longest time supporters, dedicated true friend, Gere, is here with us. against their identity for a time, this next generation will ultimately find their way back to their true selves. Just as Tibetans who grew up during the Cultural Revolution did. Just as those who were sent to the inland boarding schools in China did. They may have to struggle to reclaim their identity, but that struggle will only make them stronger and more resilient. They may have to relearn the language and the teachings. They may not look or sound like what we consider traditional Tibetans to look or sound like. But what matters is that they are Tibetan. They're Pibas. They're people of the snowland. They're descendants of warriors who have survived for thousands upon thousands of years in one of the most extreme environments on this earth. The roots of the Tibetan people run deep into the bedrock of the plateau. They rise again into our sacred mountains, where our deities still reside and are continuing to protect us. I think they're calling us to fight for them, for the land, for the mountains, for the Dharma, and not just because it's good for us, but because it benefits all the world around us too. And I know it may sound far-fetched from where we stand right now, but I'm certain the Tibetan people and the Tibetan nation will outlast this horror of China's occupation. We will outlast the Chinese Communist Party's rule in Tibet. The only thing we have to do is fight, to never give up, never allow them to write our story. Only we do this. For more than 7 decades and against all odds, a relatively small population numbering approximately 7 million people has stood against one of the most populous nations, most vicious and violent regimes this world has ever seen, and we're still standing. How? With sheer grit, total determination, deep faith, and true compassion. If we're determined to fight for our rights and freedom and for our language and for our right to be Buddhists and to worship the Dalai Lama when the time, whatever may come, they can't stop us. It's up to us. It's completely up to us. And Lobga Rangzen knew this. And when I think about how to honor his sacrifice, I find myself looking at the life he lived, his devotion to serving the nation and the cause of Tibetan independence, and to his final words, which told us to recommit ourselves to unity, to work harder to get along, to keep celebrating and practicing Tibetan culture, to continue to struggle for the liberation of our homeland. And now the greatest way we can honor his sacrifice is to answer the call. Take action every day, in whatever way you can. And also protect and care for every precious person in our movement. We need every Tibetan to keep living, to keep fighting alongside each other, no matter what comes. I believe Lobga Rangzen's final act was to wake us up to our own potential. It's both a tragic and extraordinary action, and it won't be in vain if it strengthens our resolve to live, to unite, to carry forward the work which he dedicated his life until Tibet is free and independent. Once again, free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Thank you.
Thank you, Ladala. Please welcome Batu Tohugo, a lifelong advocate for rights of Southern Mongolian people and the Executive Director of Southern Mongolian Human Rights Information Center. For decades, he has documented human rights abuses, led international efforts to defend the language, culture, and identity of Southern Mongolian in the face of escalating assimilation. Please welcome Batu.
Yesterday, seminar. My name basic but culture Mongolia from southern Mongolia. Southern Mongolia is always known as Inner Mongolia. It's another occupied nation under the Chinese colonial regime. We gather here today with very heavy hearts to honor the life and sacrifice of our dear friend Lobga Rangzen. I had the privilege of knowing Lobga for many years. We stood together at a number of protests, demonstrations, conferences, and human rights events, raising our voices for Tibet, Southern Mongolia, East Turkestan, and all oppressed peoples. He is a man of unwavering courage, compassion, and conviction. Like many of you, I was deeply saddened by his decision to sacrifice his life in an effort to awaken the world's conscience to the suffering of the Tibetan people. His final act was one of profound violent resistance, a desperate call for humanity not to look away. For decades, Tibetans have appealed to the world for justice. Sadly, global leaders have failed to respond with meaningful action. But this does not mean the conscience of humanity is bankrupt. I believe that one day the world will fully awaken to confront the Chinese colonialism and authoritarian expansion, which threaten not only the Tibetans, but also Southern Mongolia, East Turkestan, Hong Kong, and freedom and human rights, democracy, human dignity everywhere. As a Southern Mongolian, I feel the pain of Tibetan people deeply, because our people are enduring many of the same tragedies under nearly 8 decades of Chinese settler colonialism. Our language is being eliminated from education. Our culture is being erased. Our nomadic way of life has been fundamentally altered. Our grassland and environment have been devastated. Our national identity is under relentless assault. In Tibet, Tibetan culture and religion face severe repression, while political freedom and the right of self-determination remain denied. In East Turkestan, Uyghurs have endured mass detention, family separation, and pervasive repression. One of the greatest tragedies of our time is that political and economic interests too often prevent the international community from recognizing and confronting mass atrocities and genocide with the urgency they deserve. Too often, justice is delayed because governments place strategic interest above moral responsibility. But I have refused to lose hope. I believe that truth is stronger than propaganda. I believe justice is stronger than oppression. And I believe that one day Tibetans, Southern Mongolians, Uyghurs, and that all oppressed people will be free to determine their political future according to their own democratic will. May Lobga Rangzen rest in peace. Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free Southern Mongolia! Free Southern Mongolia! Free East Turkestan! Free East Turkestan! Free Hong Kong! Free Hong Kong! Thank you.
Pawo Lobga Rangzen.
do what each of us can, in whatever way we can, for Tibet. That message feels even more urgent today. As we all know, the Chinese Communist Party has now put into law the systematic oppression that Tibetans have experienced for decades through the so-called genocidal ethnic unity and progress law. The CCP seeks to accelerate efforts to dismantle Tibetan identity by targeting our language, our culture, and the values that have sustained our people for generations. A people, a nation cannot survive if they are separated from their language, their history, and who they are. And the Chinese Communist Party knows this. Tibetans inside Tibet have long felt the weight of this urgency and have sounded the alarm time and time again. In the past few decades alone, there have been over 170 Tibetans who have resorted to self-immolation in desperate protest, each seeking to draw the world's attention to Tibet and to galvanize global action. Our response, therefore, must be unity. We must strengthen our communities, protect our language, preserve our culture, and ensure that the next generation grows up knowing what it means to be Tibetan. His Holiness the Dalai Lama has always shown us the path forward with compassion, with non-violence, and with the belief that our shared humanity is stronger than oppression. Those principles must continue to guide us as we face the long task ahead. Today, the greatest way that we can honor Pawo Lobga Rangzen is not only by remembering his sacrifice, but by answering his call. I ask Tibetans everywhere to stand together, to stand united. I ask governments and international community not to remain silent as Tibetan identity is systematically dismantled and Tibetan culture faces erasure in our every person here to speak out, to stand with Tibet, and to help ensure that Tibetan language, culture, and identity are not only allowed to survive but to flourish. So I ask you all, let's have unity for Tibet. Unity for Tibet! Unity for Tibet! Unity for Tibet! Long live His Holiness the Dalai Lama! Long live His Holiness the Dalai Lama! Long live His Holiness the Dalai Lama!
look at all of you. All of my brothers and sisters out here. Tashidale, Well, this is a kind of a strange place to be talking about these things, isn't it? But why not? Right in the middle of the kind of the beating heart of New York, of America, within the kind of entertainment of the world, to be talking about something really important. And not just for Tibetans, for everyone. I'm really, really honored to be here with you tonight. And what this means, it's honoring this extraordinary man. What he has accomplished here in bringing us together is something truly extraordinary. We're here to honor this man, who I don't remember ever meeting. But probably many of us here didn't meet him, had the privilege, the honor of meeting him. Yet whose message now asks something of every one of us, to stand together. This sense of unity. That in unity we can accomplish anything. We know that. Every one of us can stand together for Tibet and be a voice, most importantly, for those inside Tibet. We are there serving them. And I don't think we can ever forget that. This extraordinary man, Lobga Rangzen, who I don't think anyone's going to forget this name. And for good reason. He's inspired us all. How moved I was and how much he kind of kicked me in the butt. And said, okay, we've been doing kind of extraordinary things. We're doing things in Washington. We're doing things around the world. We talk to our families. We talk to each other. But it's been a lot of talk. This was an extraordinary sacrifice of action that he demonstrated to us. And frankly, I felt woken up by this. Deeply saddened, to be sure. But woken up. And I think we all need to wake up right now. We can wake up.
Yep, wake up!
We can change this world. Now, what he spoke about, he believed Tibet's future depends on Tibetans and friends of Tibet and all people of conscience standing together with courage and conviction. He obviously loved Tibet so deeply, he refused to let its suffering remain invisible. He wanted the world to understand that Tibet was not simply occupied. This is a civilization of risk. What is at stake is an entire way of understanding the world and each other. The Tibetan language has its own script and a literary tradition stretching back more than 1,000 years. It contains words for states of mind, levels of consciousness, nature of mind that English cannot even begin to translate at this point. Tonka paintings, wood carvings, monasteries built to mirror the Buddhist understanding of the universe, the workings of the human mind, and humanity's place within that bringing together of compassion and wisdom. And this is something I go through all the time. I remember I talked to someone years and years ago about Tibet, and I said, we have to do something. We have to do something. We started Tibet House. We have to do something. They said, well, maybe you could do something at the Museum of Natural History. And I said, well, that's very nice, but this isn't a dead culture. This is a live experiment in the possibilities of the human mind and the human heart. These are not relics of the past. They're living traditions that survive only if someone is free to pass them on. And that's why China's very oddly named ethnic unity law, which in fact does just the opposite, presents such an existential risk. It threatens the very conditions that allow Tibetan language, culture, culture, and identity to survive. When a civilization loses the freedom to teach its own children, humanity loses something it can never, ever replace. And that is the price of forced assimilation. With every civilization that disappears, we lose a different way of solving problems, of making meaning, of creating beauty, of new ways that we can live together, create a world community which is based on our mutual survival and joy and happiness and love. And it's not only about the rights of Tibetans, obviously, but Uyghurs. We have wonderful Uyghurs here. We have Mongolians. We have Hong Kongers. We're all in this together. And this is about whether we believe every civilization, that means every civilization deserves the right to exist, to endure, and to thrive. His Holiness often says, and very famously so, that his religion is kindness. And we all feel that immediately. But he's not talking about temples or doctrine, but really that warm human heart of kindness. And when you look at the people who learned from him that deep essence of kindness, not the superficial sense, but that deep sense that we're all in this together and we all deserve love and compassion, kindness and joy. When you look at everyone who's learned from him and carried that lesson across the Himalayas into refugee communities, across continents, all the way here to this bizarre place in Times Square right now, you realize that those words were never meant to be just admired. They were meant to be lived deeply inside of us. Because real kindness is not passive. It's not soft. No, real kindness is standing beside those punished for speaking their language, or speaking their faith, or speaking their truth. Real kindness means refusing to accept that nearly 1 million Tibetan children should be separated from their families and sent to Communist Party boarding schools, where they're made to abandon their language, culture, and history. Real kindness is a refusal to look away when Chinese injustice to dismantle Tibetan's centuries-old culture and push an entire civilization towards extinction. Our other brother, Martin Luther King Jr., he said that the arc of the moral universe bends always towards justice. And I think that's true. I think we can all believe that. But that bending towards justice only happens because people bend it. It doesn't happen on its own. For more than 70 years, Tibetans have kept bending that arc in exile, in monasteries rebuilt from nothing, in classrooms, at TCVs, in communities around the world, in the halls of the United States Capitol, outside the UN, and tonight here in Times Square. But a culture can't survive on admiration alone. Those cute Tibetans, it doesn't quite work that way. No. It takes all of us working beside Tibetans to defend their rights, which is we've been doing with the international campaign for Tibet for 35 years now. Tibet can't be forgotten. We must preserve a culture, and it's a responsibility of all of us to do that. So tonight I'm going to ask you to do something. And Tencho, come up here a second. Because he's the president of ICT. And this is one of our programs, but I want you to actually make this appeal. We want you to record a video, okay? Because we're in Congress quite a bit, talking to congressmen and senators, and they're very open to this, believe me. We very rarely have we been in an office that we feel like we're not welcome or they don't understand the Tibetan situation. But they also want to hear from their constituents. So
we're asking you to record a short video asking your members of Congress to co-sponsor the Assuring the Future of Tibet Act and call for the repeal of China's so-called ethnic unity law. So you record a video asking your member of Congress to co-sponsor Assuring the Future of Tibet Act and call for a repeal of China's so-called ethnic unity law.
Okay, look, if you don't know who your congressperson is, contact us and we'll tell you. We'll make it really easy for all of you to do that, but it's really important. They always tell us, well, if we hear from our constituents, of course we'll act. Well, this is your moment. This is your moment to act. So if we can help you with that process, please get a hold of us and we will. When His Holiness accepted the Nobel Peace Prize in 1989, and I had the extraordinary good karma to be there with His Holiness when that happened and feel the seismic change of how people felt about Tibet through His Holiness, obviously. But this was the moment where things, I think, changed quite a bit. In Oslo, 1989, he didn't dedicate that award just to Tibetans. No, he dedicated it to every person struggling for freedom, for dignity, and for peace. Tonight we're here to honor an extraordinary Tibetan, Lobga Rangzen, in that same spirit of generosity, but speaking truth to power. And not being passive, acting. Now, as controversial as it might be within Buddhist theology, a self-immolation, one cannot question the sincerity and the complete commitment of this extraordinary man to his beliefs. We need to do the same thing, all of us, in our own way. We don't have to self-immolate, but we can call our congressman, we can talk to our neighbors, we can speak out with generosity, with purpose, but we need to act. Now we're going to honor him tonight as we will have, I've been seeing so many speeches about him, and I'm so moved by the people who knew him and respected him. And I was really taken by something that was said over and over again that I want to say tonight. That we honor him by carrying forward the message he asked the world never to forget. Pawo Lobga Rangzen. I am a Tibetan. I am a Tibetan. I am a Tibetan. Thank you. But I want to show you one other thing, and I didn't know if I was going to say this, but I do feel like saying it now. I had a bit of a daydream a few days ago, and it was about His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And His Holiness was solid, and he glowed, but he was expanding into Dharmakaya. The body wasn't so important anymore. And I had this very clear vision that we were becoming his body. We were becoming his hands. We were becoming his feet. We were becoming his tongue, his mind, his heart. And that is our responsibility. What we've taken from him now, we have to act on in the world with his strength and his power and his skills and his capacities. I am a Tibetan. I'm a follower of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. I'm a follower of Shakyamuni Buddha. And I will act. I will act. I will make His Holiness proud of me by acting. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
start, I'd like to first acknowledge Michelle from Mayor Mamdani's office. The mayor is on vacation, couldn't be here, but we have representation from Mayor Mamdani's office. Congresswoman AOC couldn't be here, but sends regards. And we have a statement also from Sophie Richardson from the Chinese defenders, and we will post that on our social media. My name is Jigme, and I serve as the president of the Tibetan National Congress. Pawo Lobga Rangzen was the president of the Tibetan National Congress chapter of New York, New Jersey. And I want to start by appreciating the young organizers of the Tibetan Youth Congress, New York, New Jersey, for organizing this vigil, for getting support from 7 different organizations across New York, and making sure that Tibet's voice is heard from the loudest and the busiest pedestrian crossing in the world. For more than 70 years, Tibetans have been told to accept the unacceptable. We were told that China's occupation is permanent, that Tibetan independence is unrealistic, and that we must lower our expectation, soften our language, and adjust our political demands to what the global governments find convenient. The world asked Tibetans to be patient. We waited. We waited and we waited. And while we waited, China used that time to kill over 1.5 million Tibetans, separated over 1 million children, some as young as 4 years old, from their language, identity, and their families, and put them in colonial boarding schools. They took time to control our monasteries, rewrite our history, erase our language, and every foundation of the Tibetan way of life. This is why Pawo Lobga Rangzen believed that the loss of independence was the root of Tibet's suffering. Without political freedom, every other right is weak and can be dismissed. Pawo Lobga Rangzen, a lifelong independence activist, sacrificed his life to end that occupation and restore Tibet's independence. Too often, the international community reduces Tibet to a human rights or religious rights issues. Governments sometimes express concerns about political prisoners, even colonial boarding schools, and the destruction of Tibetan culture, but refuse to confront the political cause behind all of this, that Tibet is an occupied country and that Tibetans have been denied the right to determine their own future. The United Nations knows that. The governments know that. Political leaders know that. The silence is not caused by the lack of information, but by the lack of courage. These governments have treated China's occupation as normal and expects Tibetans to adjust and accept it. This has been China's greatest victories, and China makes us believe that our resistance is futile and that our freedom is impossible. Pawo Lobga Rangzen rejected that lie and that fake narrative. He sacrificed outside the United Nations the most recognized address in the whole planet because he wanted the folks in that institution to not look away and no longer say that we don't know what's happening in Tibet. He made the most extreme and
unimaginable non-violent sacrifice after years of peaceful appeals that have been ignored, dismissed by every door of power. This was his wake-up call to the world. This was a call to the citizens of the world. This and the 170 self-immolations prior to that was a message to the world that Tibet is still under some of the most draconian policies under the Chinese occupation. So, how long can the world choose to look away and ignore the 171 human beings who burned themselves to use their own bodies as evidence? How long can the United Nations and governments hide behind weak and useless statements? How long can politicians and activists who claim to oppose occupation, genocide, and oppression lose their moral courage when it comes to China, the world's most brutal and most powerful authoritarian regime? Standing here today at Times Square, the world's busiest, the most glamorous, the most shiniest place, I want to ask the world, why is Tibet denied the outrage and urgency extended to other occupied and oppressed people? Are Tibetan lives worth less? Is our nation less deserving of freedom? And it gives me no pleasure but to call on the world with shame. Shame to everyone in the world who choose silence. And I tell them, you are not neutral. You have chosen China's power over colonialized lives. History will record your silence for what it is, a complicity to China's occupation and genocide in Tibet. Your silence is no longer ignorance. Your silence is violence, and your hands are filled with blood along with the blood of the Chinese regime. They say that Tibetans are peace-loving people. But even Tibetans have a breaking point. We are angry, we are frustrated, and we're exhausted. But do not mistake our non-violence for weakness. Do not mistake our patience for surrender. We are peaceful people, but we are not defeated people. We will commit to Pawo Lobga Rangzen and all the martyrs to not reduce their sacrifices to photographs, vigils, a tweet, names spoken and then forgotten. We will carry forward the struggle and demand for everything that they gave their life to end China's occupation and restore Tibet's independence. We also know that the world will not hand us our freedom. The United Nations or the US government will not rescue us. And China will never willingly return the country it invaded from us. That responsibility belongs to each and every one of us. We must continue to organize with discipline, speak in unity, and build a movement powerful enough to shake the conscience of this world and shake the foundation of Beijing. So from Times Square, this is our message to Beijing, to the United States, and every leader who chooses to choose silence. Tibet has not surrendered. Tibet has not surrendered, will not surrender, and will never surrender. as the 14th Dalai Lama, and to commit to our promise to bring him back to the Potala Palace and reunite him with our siblings in a free and independent Tibet. Rangzen! Rangzen Gyalo! Rangzen! Rangzen Gyalo! Rangzen! Rangzen Gyalo!
That is our brother. Man. That is a Tibetan. That is a Tibetan.
Next, I request Tenzin Namgyala, North America grassroots coordinator of Student for Free Tibet, will present a silent dying act, visual action, a tribute to the ultimate sacrifice of Pawo Lobga Rangzen, then followed by long show by X-Tipa.
Hello, I'll try to make this as quick as possible, but we're going to ask as many people who can fit inside the center stage, people who have signed up to do the die-in. If you're signed up to do the die-in, you may raise your hand. Raise your hand if you're signed up to do the die-in.
na ngazo pheba dinde nyang de ine yam UN da chige da changma da changma ngazo na khasum de do chesan digi chenje de che do ngazo khada me de gimsen di ane ine oda ye sera na ma bu de wala
Tibet's cause. They're dead silent. We need to wake them up, but we gotta wake up first. We gotta take action, be it individual, be it organization. Take initiatives and support the organization taking initiatives. Pagalo!
begi nganto pe milewa Jami kung te ma pe Taki ko loko tu Shwe je song te gambe Namshi kang do shu ye Kawa ka pe yuki nganto pe milewa Jami kung te ma pe Taki ko loko tu Chege song te gambe Namshi kang do shu ye Lo sha Ya la lo sha Bin da ka pu ki ngan to pe mi le wa Jami kung te ma pe Taki ko lo ko tu Shui je song de gambe Nam chi kang do shu ye Kawa ka pe yu ki Na to pe mi le wa Jami kung te ma pe Taki ko lo ko tu Chui ge song de gambe Nam chi kang do shu ye Lo sha Ya la lo sha Bin da so Ya la lo sha Lo sha Rang zen che do lo sha Nam yamita Rawan ta zi chi ge